It all began with an unexpected late-night Instagram live in which Erica Mena was obviously upset and revealed a shocking claim that even Love and hip-hop Atlanta couldn't handle. Claim mills are going crazy as rumors swirl that DNA results have reportedly validated, and Mendeecees fans are startled to learn that a furious Yandy Harris allegedly approached Erica in a private meeting that got confrontational, resulting to Erica's strange hospitalization. Harris is the father of Erica's hidden pregnancy, and things have taken a dangerous turn. Emotions ran high as the reality TV community was left reeling after accusations of deceit and betrayal swept through social media. There were rumors that heated phone calls and text messages were leaked, leaving family members unsure of whom to believe. Friends of the couple are reportedly worried about the safety of both women, with insiders claiming that hospital concerns regarding Erica's injuries were voiced by staff, but Mendeecees is nowhere to be seen. Did he run away in fear, or is he concealing a more sinister secret? Stay in as we reveal every detail of this horrific story, where devoted fans are demanding answers and the truth is still unknown. Erica Mena's breath caught in her throat as she pushed through the cafe's glass door, buried beneath layers of controversy. Every nerve in her body trembled like a leaf in a storm, and the rich aroma of roasted coffee beans and the warm murmur of conversation that normally felt comforting now seemed strange, as though the whole world outside had been replaced by a huge empty space. She noticed Yandy Harris sitting at the corner of the booth with her arms folded across her chest. Her eyes were cold and unwavering, and Erica's heart was thundering in her ears with every beat, a stinging reminder of the sealed envelope she was holding. DNA analysis verified that Mendeecees Harris is the biological father of Erica Mena's pregnant child. It contained her future and destroyed her past. No matter how many times she read the contents, the words stayed permanently carved in her consciousness. Child probability of 99. 9% she was overcome by memories of late-night conversations and laughing. Yandy had first shown her this cafe, where she had spent many afternoons. With fingers so unsteady she could hardly steady the seal, Erica slid into the booth across from Yandy, her spine pressed against the steaming lat, confiding dreams and fears in the safe haven of their friendship. However, now every treasured memory felt tainted, as though the sanctuary of those moments had been irrevocably shattered. Erica's pulse pounded so loudly that she doubted Yandy could hear anything else in the silence that followed, and Yandy's eyes, which had before been warm and inviting, were now chipped with betrayal, cold and accusing. As though it were a detonator that would set her realities on fire, Yandy reached forward and set the envelope on the table between them. "Open it," Yandy said in a low, harsh voice, and Erica's chest constricted. Her throat felt dry and raw as she lifted the paper and unfolded it with the assurance that she both test results reveal Mendeecees Harris as the father probability 99. The bold black print contrasted strongly with the crisp white background, and the one sheet, stark and unadorned, spelled out her doom. 9% Erica tried to look up at Yandy, but tears filled her eyes and clouded her vision. "I didn't mean for all of this." Erica's vision focused to that one declaration, her stomach dropping out in a fast fall that left her gasping. Yandy's jaw tensed as she spoke in a brittle whisper, her voice quivering like an autumn leaf. "Didn't mean to what betray me take my husband." The accusations landed like blows each one, igniting a fresh flare of guilt and fear inside Erica's chest. It wasn't like that. Erica oversaw her small words. "I was afraid that you and the Mendeecees were done." She trailed off, unable to finish the raw, and he added, "You two were separated. I never intended." She scooted across the booth until her elbow rested on the edge of the table, her face inches from Erica's. And Yandy's lips twisted into a sad, bitter grin. The anguish in her chest seemed like a living thing. "I never deceived you. I never. Please try to understand," she begged, closing her eyes and taking a trembling breath. "I thought I could fix this without hurting anyone. You fixed nothing," Yandy spat, her voice rising. "You lied to me, and you sat here day after day, knowing exactly what you were doing. You made my life into a circus, and now everyone is talking about you, making fun of you, denouncing you, and tearing you apart on Instagram, Twitter, and blogs." Erica, as she swallowed the bile, she opened her eyes and covered her mouth with her hand. "I'm so sorry," she whispered quietly, but Yandy wasn't finished. Before Yandy pushed forward, there was a tense silence. Erica suppressed a gasp as agony shot through her fingers as he grabbed her wrist with unexpected vigor. "You think saying sorry undoes this?" Yandy hissed. Do you think your apologies are credible?" She abruptly pushed Erica back, causing her to slip and fall hard, her wrist slamming into the tile floor as her heel caught on the table leg. As the world tilted, the lights above exploded into a constellation of dazzling stars, sending a searing jolt of agony up her arm. Her head then struck the marble edge of the table with a terrible crack that echoed in her skull. The taste of copper flooded her tongue. Suddenly, the murmur of when Erica finally regained consciousness. The antiseptic sting of hospital air filled her senses. The constant beep of the heart monitor felt like a taunt. And the conversation, music, even Yandy, and rage shouting faded to a distant roar before darkness engulfed her. The eve in her arm was a lifeline connecting her to a world she didn't recognize. Her head pulsed, her vision swimming as she blinked against the fluorescent glare, and her wrist throbbed. Despite her desire to disappear, she lay on a narrow gurney with crisp white linens tucked around her. She tried to sit up, but nausea welled up in her body, and a heavy bandage encased her in a cage of anguish with every heartbeat. A nurse leaned over her, her face a mask of professional care, and she flinched when a soft hand touched her shoulder. "Where am I?" The nurse smiled sympathetically and said, "It's easy. You had a rough fall. I need you to lie still while we run some tests." Erica's voice came out as a croak. "Central General, you were brought in following the cafe incident. The doctor wants to keep you under observation for a moderate concussion because you struck your head and hurt your wrist." Erica nodded and closed her eyes for a moment. The memory of the shove, the fall, and the envelope flashing behind her made her feel ashamed and in pain. She felt stupid for ever thinking she could hide her pregnancy and relying on Mendeecees to protect her from exposure. Her phone buzzed on the tray next to her, and she looked at the screen, dreading the messages that were playing in her stomach. As if it were a hot coal, she dropped the phone back onto the tray and closed her eyes once again. The knot in her chest intensified. Erica was hospitalized following Yandy's attack. Erica received text after text. Dinner results confirmed the paternity scandal. Mendeecees in hiding when the door to her room creaked open. A man slipped inside, a mixture of guilt, fear, and what might have been tenderness. Mendeecees Harris stood in the doorway, his suit jacket rumpled, and she realized that the truth would come out. Now everything was out of control. Tie loose around his neck, his eyes pained and exhausted locked into hers, and even though she no longer trusted him, a part of her still yearned for assurance. He had come slowly, as though he wasn't sure if she wanted him there, and at last he knelt next to her. "Erica," he said in a heartfelt whisper, "I'm so sorry," as his palm lingered over hers before softly resting on her wrist. She pivoted her squinting through her tears as she turned to face him. "Where were you?" "You could have prevented this," she said, managing a frail thread in her voice. He closed his eyes. "Pained Yandy showed me the results first. She made me believe you were lying. I didn't know what to think. She felt a fresh wave of betrayal calm through her, turning her stomach to ice. You believed her, she said softly, each word a wound. Instead of me, he said, his head lowered. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of losing her. He raised his gaze to hers, and Erica briefly caught a glimpse of the man. I'm pregnant, she said to herself as she turned away from the man she had once loved, who had made promises of eternity. But now that promise was broken by secrets and murmurs. Her tears fell unnoticed upon the clean white sheets. He closed his eyes as though roving himself, and his voice was hardly audible. I know, he continued. I wish I had come to you first. She looked for sincerity in his expression, but she felt a twinge of loneliness as she realized that there would be little support in the days ahead. Outside, the hallway lights flickered, and the quiet hum of the hospital staff served as a reminder of how far away this place was from the haven she had found in the cafe. Her phone buzzed once more, and she fought the want to check it since the world only demanded spectacle and did not deserve her suffering. Instead, she allowed her gaze to wander to the ceiling and concentrate on nothing. A gentle knock on the door announced the arrival of Rashida Frost. Entered the room, her face displaying a mixture of caution and worry. She moved slowly toward the bedside, seemingly unsure of whether to greet her, and Erica's chest constricted. Rashida had been a friend and ally during difficult times, but now her allegiances were tangled and frayed. How are you holding up? Rashida asked softly, her voice low, and Erica's lips quivered. I'm hurting, she said. Rashivan gave a nod. We'll figure this out, she replied softly, dragging a chair to the bedside. But you need to rest right now. As her mind raced with unresolved issues, Erica swallowed. How would she safeguard her baby? How could she face the repercussions, and what would happen to her friendships, job, and faith in love? Erica felt the weight of their silence descend, cleared her throat, and she said, we need to decide what happens next. The media is already digging into every detail. Our every move will be scrutinized. Rashida sighed and pulled up a chair next to the Mendeecees room. There's a strategy meeting at 2, she continued, her tone changing to the cool, collected voice of an experienced mediator. Our lawyer has drawn up a Mendeecees clutched Erica's hand, his eyes watering. If we release that now, it'll confirm everything Yandy claimed. He wants us to make it clear that Erica was assaulted and that the paternity findings are true. We have no choice, Erica replied, shakily exhaling. The thought of a public statement made her stomach twist. She pushed her eyes open, her gaze falling on his. Her mother placed the tissue into her hand, tears shining in her eyes, and said, Sweetheart, you're not alone. We'll stand by you whatever. She understood that silence would be taken as guilt. As a doctor returned to the room with a chart in hand, Erica nodded and swallowed hard against the new sting of tears. She felt burdened by every stare and every rumor that circulated on social media. The hallway lights flickered above. Miss Mena, I'm going to order a couple. Erica's chest clenched, but she mumbled, Okay, we'll be back soon. Try to rest, he added in a soft voice. We need to make sure there's no internal bleeding and that your wrist is still healing properly. He put the chart on a nearby stand. Left her with the constant presence of Mendeecees and the faint beep of machinery. He brushed a lock of hair off her forehead and left his thumb on her face. I apologize, he mouthed, the weight of his regret greater than any reprimand. Erica closed her eyes willingly. She imagined the little flutter of her unborn kid against her ribs as a reminder of why she had to go through this. Voices raised in the corridor as a TV team quarreled over a quote, and Rashida got up and moved to the doorway. Tugging the world outside was already poised to attack, hungry for her downfall, and Erica's heart plummeted as she whispered, The curtain is partially aside. They're out there. Her tone was equal parts frustration and determination. Hand to her bandaged wrist a burning pain that reminded her that Yandy's performance had caused more than just mental wounds. A nurse came back to assist Mendeecees in removing the locket from his old chain and giving it to Erica. It included a tiny picture of Erica and their pregnant child's first. The world outside would brutalize her and break her apart, but this small memento reminded her of why. "Take care of this," he said. "No matter what happens, don't lose hope." Erica hugged the locket to her bosom, gasping as memories of better times raced through her head. She held onto it as the nurse led her down the hallway to the imaging room. Every step was a new struggle, and the fluorescent lights in the hallway seemed to get brighter as each one focused on her suffering. As she slid onto the small table for the subsequent scan, her mind mumbled warnings about lawsuits, custody disputes, and never-ending rumors. But the skin was quick, the machine's regular hum a cool comfort. And when it was done, the tech nodded softly. All looked stable, reminding her that her child was secure for the time being, cocooned in her womb, oblivious to the chaos above. She claimed that as the tech helped her sit up and brought her back to the gurney, Erica breathed a sigh of relief. The nurse escorted her back to her room, where Mendeecees was waiting with a worried expression on his face, and Rashida was on her phone, whispering urgently the statements she was ready to give. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked, taking a big breath and looking directly into Erica's eyes. His voice cracked in a whisper, and Erica nodded slowly despite her racing heart. "We have to," she muttered quietly. The world outside her window had grown dark as Erica lay back against the pillows, clutching the locket, as Rasha and Mendeecees prepared to release their statement to the waiting cameras. He pressed his forehead against hers for a moment before stepping back, saying, "Yandy's claims will stand if we stay silent." She closed her eyes, preparing herself for the tempest she was about to unleash, and realized that there would never be any peace again in these sterile walls as the fluorescent corridor lights darkened. Erica Maya slumped back against the sterile smell of the hospital room felt oppressive, as if every breath she took carried the weight of 1,000 whispers. Outside, the world she once confidently navigated had turned into a whirlpool of headlines, rumors, and broken alliances. Her pulse was a slow drum beneath the steady beep of the heart monitor. "We requested privacy and respect at this trying time, but Rashida's well-crafted statement was released an hour ago, and their comments are reverberating on television programs and social media feeds alike. Erica Mena was assaulted, and the findings of the NET test verifying paternity are accurate." Fans and critics alike analyzed every word, arguing motive, placing blame, and wondering out loud whether lawsuits or custody disputes would ensue. Even as those words spread, nothing felt settled. The statement had only fueled the flames of speculation, raising more questions than it answered. Erica closed her eyes, allowing fatigue to overtake her, but it provided no solace. She saw scenes from the show play back in her head like a warped movie reel. Yandy's hand flying through the air, the iced coffee vase toppling, the table sliding as Erica's wrist gave way under her weight. The last crack of she grounded herself in the concrete Mendeecees sat nearby nursing a cup of lukewarm hospital coffee, while she brushed her fingertips down the warm metal of the if pole, her head against the tile still resonating in her skull like a sharp punctuation point to a betrayal that went far deeper than any physical blow. He carried the burden of his predicament in the hollow behind his eyes and the drop of his shoulders. He was unable to move his head until Rashida returned with an agitated expression, saying, "They're calling us for a live interview in 15 minutes. We need you to be coherent," she said in a businesslike tone. Erica's voice was harsh as she murmured, "I can't. feeling bile rise in her throat. Rashida remained unwavering. "You must. If we don't stop the rumors, they'll write us off before we can even breathe." Erica closed her eyes and started crying. The thought of being in front of cameras and microphones while still feeling betrayed was too much to handle. However, she was aware that Rashida was correct. This was their opportunity to change the course of events and give the world her version of events before they were completely destroyed. Mendeecees saw her rise and walk across the room with a hand on her shoulder, saying in a low voice, "We'll do it together." Yandy had already attacked you on camera, so they needed to respond. Erica agreed and took a trembling breath. A few minutes later, a medical aide and a makeup artist came in, combing her hair and applying concealer under her eyes to cover up the dark circles. Erica gazed at her image in the little vanity mirror, almost able to move. When the camera crew arrived in the hospital room, they saw the woman staring back over her like a shroud as Rashida and Mendeecees shared a glance in the corner of her eye. The truth had come out with a vengeance, and there was no turning back. Erica closed her eyes, her body exploding with fatigue as new tears formed lines on her cheeks. She knew that the battle ahead would require all of her strength, and that everything would change forever after the world found out about her secret. Erica Mena's eyelids fluttered shut as exhaustion swept over her in unrelenting waves, sending her into a restless haze where guilt and sharp pain fought for control of her thoughts. Every breath felt like she was breathing glass fragments, and the sterile clang of her heartbeat was amplified by the rhythm of her heartbeat. In the corridor, doctors and nurses moved with practiced precision, their quiet footsteps and hushed tones blending into a low hum that felt very different from the chaos taking place inside Arapa's life. She drifted in and out of consciousness as she heard machines and the murmur of distant voices beyond her private curtain. Mendeecees' shoulders bowed in shame, Rashida's soft hand squeezed her own, and Yandy's angry glance flickered through her mind like a broken film reel. As the hours passed, family members began to flow into the waiting area, including Arap's father, whose normally steady gaze they exchanged fervent glances, fingers tracing the plastic frames of their masks as though seeking comfort, with her mother clutching a crumpled tissue, eyes red from crying, and her younger brother determined to appear stoic despite the lines of fear engraved on his face. When the nurse opened a sliding door for a standard check, he moved closer and asked, "How is she?" He questioned in a voice that was both relieved and terrified. The nurse nodded professionally, saying, "She has a stable concussion." Her mother let out a tremulous sigh and slumped into a neighboring chair, her shoulders shaking, outside the hospital's waiting room television. Her wrist fracture was properly set, and her symptoms are light. She is still being monitored, but there are no signs of complications. Flippered with breaking news celebrity scandal intensifies, then her findings reveal paternity and love, and hip-hop dispute. Erica half listened to her thoughts revolving around the whispered rumor that would hang over her forever. She remembered the moment she found out she was pregnant in the first place. In the early days, she informed Natalie in quiet, anxious whispers that she was carefully organizing a talk with Mendeecees in the hopes that perhaps, just maybe, she and Mendeecees could create something lasting before the rumors started, and Yandy's distrust had taken root like a poison vine. Erica had been overcome by fear. Fear of hurting Yandy, worry of being judged, fear of losing Mendeecees, and most importantly, fear for her unborn child. But everything fell apart when Yandy called with a struggle in her voice and demanded proof. A gentle knock startled her from her reverie as the door opened to show Rashida Frost. Her face was a complex fusion of resolution and pity as she slid inside and closed the door with a faint click that reverberated. Her future was in jeopardy, threatened by headlines and courtroom commotions still to come. Similar to a decision, She had gone to Erica's bedside and put a soft touch on her shoulder, asking, "How are you feeling?" Erica managed a feeble nod each time she asked in a low, trembling voice that betrayed her composure. As the glass shattered, Rashida's eyes shifted to Mendeecees, who was kneeling next to the bed with his hand awkwardly hovering over Erica's uninjured one. "I'm Haney," she mumbled, her voice cracking. Erica closed her eyes, a new wave of sickness approaching her. "Rashida, Erica, you destroyed my life." Tears welled in Erica's eyes. She wanted to speak, to reach out, but the words felt swallowed by shame. "I'm sorry." Yandy's eyes briefly softened before she shook her head, saying, "Sorry doesn't undo what you did." She turned to go, but she paused, saying, "Baby, do you think you can?" "I don't know," she mumbled. "I never asked for any of this." Yandy's shoulder dropped, and Erica recognized the extent of Yandy's suffering after she had assisted in creating it. "Just be forgiven because you're carrying his child." Erica's throat closed. As Rashida and Mendeecees exchanged anxious looks, Yandy murmured suddenly, and she went, the door clicking shut behind her. The ensuing silence felt empty, like the stage had been cleared out after the actors had departed. Erica's tears fell into the pillow. "She's hurting," Rashida muttered. "I don't know how to fix this," Mendeecees murmured, sitting back in his chair with his eyes averted. "We'll start by being honest," Erica said, her voice barely audible, as she stretched out and ran her fingertips down his knuckles. "And two," Rashida said quietly, as if comforting herself. Words shook as much as her hand, but deep down she felt a spark of resolve that made her decide to confront the rumors head-on at any cost. As the day went on and the sun sank, long shadows were cast through the blinds. In order to gather her strength, Erica closed her eyes and pressed her face against the soft pillow. Tomorrow would come more legal threats, custody requests, and the constant clicking of shutters from the paparazzi. But tonight she gave herself a little moment of fragile quiet, while clinging to the hope of new. Erica Manta fell into a shallow sleep as the hospital lights faded gradually when the night shift started. Outside her window, a whirl of hope and uncertainty ran mercilessly, and she understood there would be no quiet any place, at any time, inside these sterile walls. The sun had already set when Erica woke up to a fresh barrage of messages. The headlines on her phone, which was resting on the bedside tray, were sharp as jagged razors. Custody battle lawyers are getting ready to sue Yandy, and Mendeecees are remaining silent while the scandal continues. She pushed her palm to her forehead, wondering if she would ever feel at peace again due to the dull roar of her concussion. Mendeecees sat quietly in the corner, examining legal documents with Rashida when Erica's eyelids opened. Their hushed chat came to a sudden halt. "How are you feeling?" he requested in a soft voice, and she made a hospital social worker knocked and came in shortly after, carrying files in a tidy stack. "Good evening, Miss Mena," she said politely. "I'm here to discuss the next steps for your care and address any concerns you may have about," she said, despite her slight nod and the uncertainty in her stomach. They both knew that her physical wounds were only one aspect of the battle. What occurs when you depart? Erica's chest tightened. The prospect of discharge filled her with dread. Once she left these walls, there would be no refuge from the cameras, and whispers the social worker continued, "We've arranged, in addition to a pediatric consultation regarding your pregnancy, you will receive home health visits to check your recuperation. I understand that this is a stressful situation, but we will work with your legal team to make sure you have assistance." She had hoped for a pregnancy that wasn't characterized by courtroom dramas and reality show spin-offs. Erica said, holding back her emotions as Mendeecees softly closed the door behind the social worker. He had gone to her bedside and put his hand in hers. The moment the baby is born, Erica's breath catches in her throat. She had not anticipated that her child's arrival would be overshadowed by legal wrangling. "We can't let that happen," she whispered as he squeezed her hand. "They're drafting custody papers," he murmured. "Yandy's lawyer says she wants joint custody." "Look resolute, we'll fight," he assured. "Our baby deserves a safe, loving home." Erica nodded, preparing herself for what would happen later that evening, as in the silence of her room, with the overhead lights muted and the hospital corridors quiet, Erica listened to the distant hum of the city. Rashida lingered in a chair close by, eyeing her anxiously as she filtered through the glass. "You don't have to face this alone," Rashida remarked quietly. "I'll be there for you at every turn." The burden on her chest began to lessen as Erica inhaled. "Thank you," she muttered. "I need you now more than ever." NBC returned with new documents in his hand. Holding the temporary restraining order was filed against Yandy to shield Erica from any more confrontations. He unfolded the document after sliding into the chair next to Rashida. He stated that "we file this first thing tomorrow, after which we begin custody." Discussions. As the three of them sat, Erica followed the lines on the paper with her eyes, her heart heavy but determined. Together in the dark light, they came to an unsaid understanding. Their lives, which had previously been characterized by laughing and public scrutiny and legal papers, would now shape common recollections. As she fell asleep, Erica felt a glimmer of optimism because she knew that even in her darkest hours, there were others who thought that she and her child would succeed. The struggles of tomorrow were only around the corner, but for tonight, she took some time to recuperate in preparation for whatever might happen next. After hearing Erica's version of the tale, please let us know. What do you think? Does someone else share the blame, or do you think she actually paid the price for her mistakes? If you have ever experienced betrayal or been entangled in family matters, please share your opinions in the comments section below. Drama, connect with people who understand, and share your stories. Don't forget to, if you're interested in learning more about the secrets of your favorite reality TV stars, click the like button. Press the notification bell to sign up for information on every development. We assure you that there will always be new videos because this story is far from over. We appreciate your time and will see you when there are more startling findings. With hollow cheeks, bruised eyes, and lips that trembled whenever she tried to speak, she resisted the impulse to turn away, determined to face this, even if it meant navigating a maze of falsehoods. Changed into a stage set with bright lights, a wall-mounted backdrop of encouraging family photos, and a number of microphones aimed at Erica. A reporter cleared her throat and asked, "Miss Mena, could you tell us how you're feeling right now?" Erica took a breath and pressed it. She straightened herself and looked at Mendeecees, who nodded encouragingly. "I'm still processing everything," she said, pressing her bandaged wrist against her heart. "The past 24 hours have been the most painful of my life." By someone I regarded as a friend, she persisted in speaking into the prisms that cruelly mirrored back, but I also believe in the power of truth. The outcomes are accurate, and I take responsibility for my actions. I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for the suffering I've caused. Because of the strange microphone, the reporter moved closer and raised her eyebrows. "You admit to the affair with Mr. Harris," she said gently, swallowing. "Yes, it happened. It was a mistake born out of fear and confusion. I never intended to hurt anyone." Erica's eyes shifted to Yandy's name on the monitor behind the reporter, who had purposefully hidden the pregnancy and betrayed her. "I'm deeply sorry," she said in a rough voice. "There's no excuse for the way I handled this, and I understand her pain. I hope we can all find a way to heal," she said, pausing to squeeze Mendeecees' hand. "My child's welfare is my top priority right now. so I asked for compassion and solitude as I concentrate on getting better. The reporter nodded. Thank you, Miss Mena Erica. Before the lights went down and the camera shuttered off, Erica gave a little practice smile and leaned back against the pillow, feeling a combination of comfort and dread wash over her. As soon as the interview aired, the barrage of alerts continued, and she received praise from supporters. When the crew eventually departed, Rashida pulled the chair near the bed and scrolled through a tablet. The damage is severe, she said, her voice edged with hate. Honesty detractors condemning her betrayal and armchair critics debating her future, Erica pressed her face into the pillow, wishing for the simple piece of anonymity that no longer existed for her. Erica's chest tightened, whispering, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but she didn't know what it would feel like. We're trending worldwide. Overnight charity endorsements have paused and reality TV producers are considering pulling your episode. Mendeecees knelt on the other side, gripping her hand, while Erica closed her eyes and allowed his words sink in. She wanted to believe him, but the world felt so uncertain. Security knocked almost immediately. Figure it out, he said in a determined voice. We'll fight for our baby. Erica's breath hitched as she watched Yandy cross the doorway, her heels clicking on the polished floor, each step ringing like a guilty sentence. Yandy halted at the foot of the bed, arms folded, and guards escorted her inside the room, her face a rigid mask of emotion. Yandy's tone was harsh, but underneath it was something raw. Hurt, anger, betrayal. Erica raised her head, the lip between them hard and jagged. I came to see if you're okay, Yandy whispered. Erica gulped hard, agony flared in her eyes, and said, I'm, her voice trembling. But Yandy interrupted, saying, don't. With her features contorted, Erica murmured, I can't do this again, fake apologies, crocodile tears, you hurt me.